Hey there. Let's take a look at basic user input in each of the three languages, Java, JavaScript, and Python that we've talked about in previous videos. So I'm going to bring up REPL, and in this case, I have three windows that I'll be switching between. And let me enlarge it a little bit so it's a little easier to see. So the first, let's take a look at Java. We had to make some changes to our last program. The first change I want to point out is we've created this thing called a scanner. So we've made another variable called a scanner. That's the type, and we gave it the name SC. We could call it anything. My scanner, for example. We just would need to change that down here as well. So I'll do that while I am fixing it. So just like we made a string called first name earlier, we're making a scanner called my scanner now. And it's equal to this interesting little line over here. So let's explain that for a moment. We have this word new, which is in blue. Blue indicates a reserved word, meaning it has a special definition in the programming language. You cannot use it as a name. But it does something special. In particular, what new does in Java is basically makes space in memory for an object that's about to be created. So we are creating a scanner object, which is a little bit more complicated than just a piece of information like the number 7 or the letter L. Because it has more information that stores and has some things it can do, takes up more space. So that word new just basically tells Java, hey, make some space for this thing I'm about to create. The next thing we see is the word scanner again with a set of parentheses. This is the constructor, which is basically a method that tells you how to make a particular object. It's kind of like the recipe for making it. And this constructor happens to take in a single parameter where you are scanning. And we are going to be scanning from the system, that's the computer, .in, the normal input stream. So this line as a whole says create a scanner that I can refer to later that is looking at the input stream. Now we're going to jump all the way to the very first line. You'll notice there's this import statement. That is because scanners are not part of the very base level Java language dictionary. There's another library that defines what a scanner is, so we just import it. It is part of the standard Java utility pack. And if you wanted to import, for example, the whole utility pack, you could actually replace the word scanner here with a star. That would import all of the things within that utility folder. But since we only need scanner, let's just leave it at that for now. So we have create a scanner. Then we put a print statement here, enter your first name. Actually, I'm going to comment that out for now. So let's ignore that for right now. We have make the scanner. Then we say make my first name. But this time, instead of assigning the value Kevin, we're saying assign whatever my scanner does when I ask it to get the next line. Next line is something that a scanner can do. It'll read the next line of text input from the user. So let's try running this program. We hit run. And it doesn't really look like anything's happening. It's just kind of sitting here. But if I were to type in just the word Kevin, all of a sudden it says, hello, Kevin. So now you maybe see why I had this print statement before that we had just commented out. Let's uncomment it and run again. Now it gets to line 9. Well, once it's done compiling, it'll get to line 9. It prints enter your name, and then it stops. It doesn't get to line 11 where it says, hello, Kevin. It's waiting for the next line to come in the input stream. And since I'm the user, I'm the one that has to put it in. So once I finally go and type in Kevin and hit enter, the next line has been input. That next line gets stored as first name over here. And then on the following line, line 11, I can then print first name. So there is some basic input processing for Java. I also want to note that you don't need to make this scanner more than once. So, for example, if I wanted to make a last name, string last name, I don't need this line 7 again. I've already created a scanner. I can just use it again. Scanner dot next line, and probably want to copy this again. And last name, be more explicit here, first name, and put a space in there, and then last name. All right, so now let's try running this. And again, we'll let it compile. Enter your first name, Kevin, and your last name, Quinn. And hello, Kevin Quinn. There we go. So we only had to import the scanner one time. We only had to make the scanner one time. And we'll come back to this in another video too to talk about how to make this take up even less space by adding an additional function. That might be in our abstraction unit. Now let's switch over to JavaScript and take a look at how we would do more or less the same thing here. Now JavaScript, we have this built-in prompt that we can use that basically does what the scanner did in Java. Now again, I want to throw out there, however, that JavaScript typically is used in web development. So it's not that often. In fact, it's pretty much never that you would be getting input from a terminal window in JavaScript. You'd almost always be processing input coming from, say, like a web form where somebody clicks a button and that text goes into the form and then gets processed on the back end. But for the sake of making sure that we understand how to do the basics, let's do the same thing here. We have this prompt. So if we go back to Java, here was our prompt. We printed a prompt, and then it scanned that line in. In JavaScript, there's this method prompt that both prints this prompt and scans it in. We store it in the variable and then print it. So let's try running it. Enter your name, still Kevin, enter, and there we go. Works just the same. So again, a little bit stripped down, but also some of the work that's being done is hidden from us, where in Java we get to actually see those steps playing out. Now let's move over to Python. And again, this is going to look very much like JavaScript. We have, instead of a prompt method, we have an input method. Enter your name. And so let's run it. It says enter your name, Kevin, enter. And you'll notice here, it looks a little different than these last two, where it said enter your first name, and on the next line, I wrote Kevin, or enter your name, and then there's a caret symbol and a space, and then Kevin. In Python, so enter your name, and then immediately Kevin started going in. So one of the things that we often think about when we're programming, especially using text, and especially when printing to the terminal or taking input in, is how things are going to line up with each other. And what we can do as an easy workaround here is just to add a space to the end of name. Let's see if that will separate the two. So run it again, enter your name, Kevin, and enter. Looks like it works. We could even get creative with it and say enter your name, put a colon there, or if we wanted it to look like JavaScript, put a little caret there. And there we go. All right. So 3 different means for getting input in 3 different programming languages. I hope that made sense, and it's going to help get you started on your future endeavors. Bye now.